Good morning to all of you. Welcome to the third annual Mobility Summit of University Transportation Centers sponsored by the US Department of Transportation. I am Rajkumar. I direct the Mobility 21 National University Transportation Center on Mobility, of course, sponsored by the USDOT. Along with me are a few of my colleagues. Let's do a quick introduction. Chris Hendrickson. Chris, please introduce yourself.
I'm Chris Hendrickson. I'm a faculty member at Carnegie Mellon University for many years, and I'm the executive director of our Traffic 21 Institute, which works in cooperation with Mobility 21. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Chris. Stan?
Hi, Stan Caldwell, executive director of the Mobility 21 National University Transportation Center.
Lisa Kay?
Hi, everyone. Lisa K. Schweier from Mobility 21 and Traffic 21. We're so glad you're all here with us today.
So in case of anything at all, you can contact any one of us, Chris, Stan, Lisa K., Joy Mann, or myself, Rajkumar. Next. Just to give you a quick background, we have had some history with the National University Transportation Center Summits. We used to hold a sequence of national summits on safety when we had the TSET Technologies for Safe and Efficient Transportation National UTC on Safety earlier. Were held in Pittsburgh at Carnegie Mellon University and in Washington, D.C. And then in the last FAST competition, UTC competition, when we became a Mobility National University Transportation Center, we've been holding the sequence of national UTC summits on mobility. So this is the third such event. Last year's, of course, ended up being virtual, and this year is virtual. Let's see what happens next year. And towards the end of this particular day, we will talk about when that's going to happen. Next. Why are we here today? So first of all, thank you for joining us today. Amidst your busy schedules. Our goals are the following. We would like to. Can we have, I'm hearing an echo, Lisa K. Are you hearing an echo too?
Checking to see who's unmuted, and I will mute them.
Thank you, Lisa K.
You're welcome.
So we will be hearing from representatives from government, academia, industry, and community experts on a national vision, if you will, improving mobility for all, not just improving mobility for the privileged, but for everybody in society. The second goal is to stimulate and encourage discussions among the various stakeholders in mobility, communities, and researchers who represent the UTCs. We hope that as part of this discussion, this exchange today, that we will be able to identify and agree upon, at least in part, about what the national priorities for mobility, and therefore this becomes input feedback to Secretary Pete at the USDOT, the UTC program, and so on, so that we can influence the national directions that satisfies the needs for all stakeholders. And last but not the least, we hope that this will be a forum in which all mobility-themed UTCs can basically expose to the nation's audience today, represented by you today, what their impactful contributions on mobility have been, right? So UTCs do good work, but we need to actually spread the word, if you will. So hopefully this acts as a forum for that. So those are the four goals that brought us together here today. Next. In terms of the registrations for the National Mobility Summit today, we have actually had 198 registrations. By far, the biggest number of attendees that we actually had registered for any of the summits that have been held in the past 6 years or so. And those 198 registrations come from 121 distinct organizations. We're very, very pleased to see this response. I really see this as an overwhelming requirement need, if you will, from the community saying that, hey, we need to change mobility for the better. This slide here really captures all the 121 organizations represented today in terms of registrations. They come from government agencies, both the federal, state, and the local level. They come from academia, of course, represented by the UTC researchers, not just the mobility-themed UTCs, but pretty much most of the others as well. We have people from the private sector, representatives from the private sector. We have representatives from NGOs, from the nonprofit sector. So this forum has evolved into an entity where we're able to get all stakeholders involved. So very pleased by that. But the hope is that we can use this opportunity to come up with a convergence of minds, if you will, so that actually we keep moving the vision of improving mobility for all forward. Next. So in terms of the UTCs that are represented today, we are pleased to say that 88% of all funded UTCs are represented in the registered list. As you know, we have national UTCs, we have federal regional UTCs, and we have tier 1 UTCs. Pleased to see that most of them are represented today. And in terms of the mobility themed UTCs, there are 2 national UTCs on mobility, for example. All mobility themed UTCs are represented here. So very glad to see that happen as well. Next. As part of the registration process, we had asked a couple of very specific questions, and thankfully people responded to those questions too. Question number 1, we asked, what do you see, you the registrant see as the primary challenge for improving the mobility of people and our clouds? Here is the word phrase, cloud, if you will. So clearly, of course, this is all about transportation. You see that people is the next big item, and then clearly there is an emphasis on infrastructure. And then if you go down the list, you have things like mobility, transit, funding, lack of funding, and such. Right? So basically, so people play a big role. Of course, infrastructure plays a big role as well, and that seems to jive well with the emphasis at DC about investing more in infrastructure. Next question. What do you see as the primary opportunity? The previous slide was about the challenge. What is the opportunity? Where can we actually make a difference? Now you see basically say that again, people dominate, right? So this forum again brings together people from multiple different stakeholder communities, and therefore this forum is bringing together those people. So this exchange ought to be very fruitful, very productive. And again, you see mobility, infrastructure, technologies, transit, public streets, and so on. And of course, community comes in as well, right? So you could pretty much see what the bubbles, that the key phrases that are bubbling up in people's minds. So of course, we'll make these slides available on our website. So you'll be able to download these slides. So look at the word cloud in more detail. To give you a quick overview of the agenda for the day, at 11, a couple of minutes from now, we'll actually have the program director of the University Transportation Center program at the USDOT make some remarks. We'll actually have a panel of federal representatives from multiple different agencies give you their perspectives on what the priorities are, where the funding opportunities are. We will take a short break, after which we'll actually have a panel involving different stakeholders who will talk about how we can improve mobility for all in society, including infrastructure and opportunities. We'll take a short break again. We'll do a bunch of small group breakouts so that everybody in the audience can actually participate in smaller discussions. We will take a short break and we'll have the honor of hearing a keynote from Dr. Robert Hampshire, who's going to be overseeing multiple aspects of USDOT policy making, including the UTC program. And then at 2:45 p.m., we'll actually have a poster session, and we will wrap up at 4 o'clock. With respect to the breakouts and the poster session, Lisa Kay will later give you a detailed overview of how that's going to be conducted. We have done this in previous events, so we do believe that things will go well. So be ready to share your thoughts, concisely, of course, so that everybody can basically get a word in. Next. Without further ado, let me introduce our next speaker. It is Cesar Singh, who is the program director for the USDOT University Transportation Center program at the USDOT Office of Research, Development and Technology. Cesar has been in the office for quite some time, so let me say a few words, introduce him formally. Caesar is the director of the University Grants Programs at the USDOT. He has more than 30 years of experience within the transportation industry and has been involved in a diverse range of surface transportation programs and projects, all the way from remote sensing technology applications in transportation, transportation planning, traffic and highway engineering, intelligent transportation systems, all the way to supply chain management and transportation logistics. His experience, both in private and public sectors, covers areas of planning, operations, design, and management of transportation projects internationally. Caesar is a registered licensed professional engineer. He received his BS in civil engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, India, and his master's degree from the University of Illinois, Chicago. Please join me in welcoming Caesar. Caesar.
Thank you, Raj, and good morning to everyone in joining this very key and important event organized by Carnegie Mellon, putting together the summit focused on a very significant transportation issue of our times. So today we are going to be hearing from many distinguished speakers about transportation mobility in the United States, the role of the universities and their research activities in addressing many of these challenges in mobility during increased crowded and busy nation's operational status. Mobility, as you know, is a critical strategic objective within the U.S. Department of Transportation to keep the traveling public safe, secure, and increase their mobility. The UTCs are obviously perfectly positioned to meet these mobility challenges through research, education, and technology transfer activities. An event such as this one that Carnegie Mellon has organized is an excellent example of how the UTCs can engage with public and private partners to ensure that their activities continue to address real-world needs. Now, these partnerships are where what we call the rubber meets the road partnerships, where they are critical to ensuring that the research becomes deployable and useful for the traveling public. As an example, the UTCs are examining the interconnectedness between infrastructure, freight mobility, and economic competitiveness. The UTCs are working on, mobility on demand issues related to transit, also autonomous vehicle technologies and its applications, investigating mobility and accessibility problems related to stimulating economic growth, productivity, and competitiveness for the American workers and businesses. Also, we are working on how bike and pedestrian transportation affects mobility in urban areas, and last but not the least, exploring the use of UAVs and artificial intelligence in key mobility areas such as safety, on-time delivery, and disaster preparedness. So the UTCs, provide a breadth and depth of knowledge and expertise on mobility issues that have informed and contributed to the transportation solutions for many, many years. So the program itself is one of the greatest resources for developing solutions to nations' mobility challenges. These challenges that will continue to grow with our population and need for interconnections. So I look forward to hearing from all of you today on this important topic and discussing the ways to move forward in this endeavor. Thank you.